Please be seated.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. We extend a special welcome to our visitors this morning. We're really happy that you've joined us. And if you haven't stopped by the newcomer table in Robinson Lounge, we invite you to do so after the service so that we can get you any information that you'd like about our congregation. We also invite you to our next session of Exploring Our Faith, which is after worship today. It's from 11:45 to 12:45 in the John Murray Room. Meg Cox is leading it this month, and it's a casual, very friendly, conversational introduction to our congregation and our faith. If this Sunday doesn't work for you, we do that once every month, so we hope to see you at a future one. Happenings in the back of your order of service has tons of announcements about our many activities happening here at UU Princeton, including that today after worship, Reverend Jennifer and I are leading a memorial service planning workshop. We'll have conversation and provide some resources around memorial services in a caring and supportive circle. All are welcome right here in Channing Hall from noon to 1:30 today for that workshop. Also on February 4th, that's 2 Sundays from now, our digital ministry members invite you to stay after the service for a tour of our congregation's website. UUPrinceton.org offers more than many of us realize, and our volunteers in that ministry would love to help you learn more about navigating it and using it up to its potential. You visit that website and click the Sign Up Genius tab to sign up for that workshop. And again, that's on February 4th after the worship service. It is time to prepare for the fellowship auction, which is scheduled for Saturday, March 2nd from 5 to 7 p.m. It kicks off with an in-person party, and then we'll have a week of online bidding. You can watch for announcements about both of those. But most importantly, we're at the point where volunteers are going to be contacting you, calling you, and emailing you, asking for your donations. Please be kind and respond. You can check out the website for ideas, including those like you can bid on me to preach a sermon of your choosing. Any topic that you'd like, I'll preach it if you're the winning bidder. And remember, I like to be challenged with those. Pick a hard one. And after worship today, we ask you to do two things. One is if you order the Dismantling Racism Machine book, you can stop by that table and pick it up. It's right out there in Robinson Lounge. And we also invite you to stop by the UU Faith Action New Jersey table to learn how you can help oppose some book banning efforts that are going on in our state. One in particular is targeting the work of Martha Hickson, a librarian who has spoken here at UU Princeton. Volunteers are needed to speak at a Board of Ed meeting in North Hunterdon Voorhees on Tuesday. You can visit that Faith Action table to learn more. And now, friends, with love guiding us, peace leading us, and grace embracing us, let us worship together.
It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were, and sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy?
Let us join together in the spirit of prayer. Blessed be you who gathers us together in joy and love, who balances our solitude with companionship, who brings us to the fellowship of those who make us laugh and think and feel and breathe more easily. We ask these blessings on the lonely, the tired, the anxious, and the ill, and for guidance in reaching out. Make us ambassadors of goodness, even that of momentary kindnesses offered in unremarkable places. Make us beings of grace and care. Make us patient and listening. Make us good neighbors and good strangers, that those who struggle will be uplifted or experience peace. We are grateful for the sun and sky, for the moon and stars, for the magical night and early mornings when the light paints the sky anew each moment. Spirit, lift our faces toward this darkness and light, its warmth and mystery, its new and ancient beauty. And in this sense, kindle in us a sense of connection with all life, united under the one sky. Let our hearts hear the music of nature, so fresh and hopeful amidst the din and noise of what often surrounds us. Bring us into the peace of nature so that we may be more peaceful. Great Spirit of the ancestors and those to come, you have gifted us with life, gifted us with one another, and gifted us a world of depth and beauty. May we always be grateful for these gifts. We praise you for them, and may our mindful embrace of them make us better servants of your hope and goodness and beauty in this world we're creating and sharing together. And here in the silence of this sacred space, we offer these, the prayers and meditations of our hearts. May it be so, and amen.
Just to admit right away how nerdy I am, I'm a Harry Potter fan. I'm also a fan of The Lord of the Rings, and I'm a Star Wars fan. I think this makes me a Unitarian Universalist. Just to review for any non-nerds out there, Harry and his young wizard friends battle against all odds against Voldemort, a powerful magician. A humble hobbit goes out to battle the forces of darkness in The Lord of the Rings, and Luke Skywalker and his friends battle against the powerful Darth Vader using the Force in Star Wars. Sadly, we do not have a magic wand. We do not have a magic ring, and we are sadly lacking in lightsabers. But we do have the Force, and that is our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of human beings. That faith makes us just optimistic enough to keep going. Sometimes our faith may dwindle down to just a tiny spark in the darkness, but we hold on to the belief that eventually the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, as Martin Luther King Jr. said. I really like Martin Luther King Jr.'s definition of faith. Faith, he said, is taking the first step when you don't see the whole staircase. I recently had the pleasure of singing with a few of my UU friends and a bunch of people from different faiths for a pickup chorus in a multi-faith Martin Luther King Jr. Day service. And it was great being part of a different kind of choir, a choir that mostly didn't sing with the music. You learn the music, and then you sing the music out. And that was a little scary for those of us who are used to having the music in front of us. And it occurs to me that singing without the music is a kind of faith. Even though you can't see the music, you must believe that the music is going to come out right, or mostly right anyway. But what really reminds me of the power of faith is another song we sang, We Shall Overcome, because it's a song about overcoming in the future. It doesn't say we shall overcome today or we shall overcome tomorrow. It says we shall overcome someday, that eventually we'll overcome against all the odds. And it's important to hold on to that belief right now because there's so much darkness that it's almost overwhelming. We have seen the Supreme Court take away a woman's right to choose. Multiple schools ban classic and beloved books. Attempts to take away the rights of trans people. And it's worth noting that Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling who painted such a vivid picture of good versus evil in her books, has gone to the dark side on the trans issue. We hear weekly, it seems, about another school shooting, and there's death and destruction in the Middle East. Sometimes it may seem like the forces of darkness are winning. I understand the impulse to turn away from that darkness, and I agree with Reverend Bill's prescription to turn off CNN every once in a while and take a break. But we can't turn away for too long because we can't battle the darkness without seeing it for what it is. As Unitarian Universalists of faith, we are people who take action. I've joined many of you in countless protests on everything from gun control to climate action. to Black Lives Matter. I often wish I kept track of how many protests I attended during a certain period of our history, say 2016 to 2020. We've signed the petitions, we've written the letters, we've provided a home for a refugee family, we're working on a green burial place. We should give ourselves a round of applause because we've answered the call again and again and again, and we continue to do so. But more will be required of us. Our fifth principle is the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process. And we know that our democracy is not a given. It's something we must fight for. And nothing less than our democracy is at stake in the coming election. And that means we need to do what we can, and none of it is glamorous. It's all grunt work. We're going to need to make the phone calls, to hit the pavement, to write the postcards, to get out the vote. And there will be days when this will seem like an uphill battle and a drop in the bucket. There will be times when we will feel tired and discouraged, and we'll tell ourselves it might be okay to sit this one out. There are times when we're not going to want to go on. My friend Emma reminded me of this moment in The Two Towers when Frodo tells Sam he can't continue with his quest. Sam tells him, "The stories that stay with you are the ones in which light vanquishes darkness." Folk in those stories had a lot of chances of turning back, only they didn't because we're holding on to something, Sam says. "What are we holding on to, Sam?" Frodo asks. "That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo," Sam replies, "and it's worth fighting." The darkest moments are when we have to remind ourselves what is worth fighting for. These are the moments when we need to draw on our faith, pick ourselves up, and keep going. Because make no mistake about it, and I know you all know this, the forces of darkness have not been destroyed. Voldemort is still out there. The ring has not been destroyed, and Darth Vader has not been vanquished. These are the moments when we're confronted with a choice. As that great philosopher Yoda said, to be Jedi is to face the truth and choose. Give off light or darkness. Be a candle or the night. Now's the time for all of us to find the Force and channel our inner Jedis. And to do that, we will all need to find a little spark of faith and keep fighting.
A few days ago, I was scrolling on my phone when a happy story popped up onto my screen. It didn't seem happy at first. It was about a dog who had run out onto a frozen pond and broken through the ice. The dog was frantically treading water as best he could, trying to climb back onto the ice, but he couldn't get out of the water. The water was obviously cold. The dog would tire soon, and we all knew what would happen next. But to the dog's rescue came a guy in waterproof cold weather gear. He slid across the ice on his belly, making his way closer and closer to the dog. He was tied to a rope held by someone else who was either on the shore or on thicker ice, so that if or when he fell through, he could be pulled back to shore. He inched closer and closer. The ice started breaking underneath him. He was soon submerged, so he continued breaking the ice with his hands, getting closer and closer to the pup. And before long, he was holding the dog, both of them in the freezing water, trying to lift the dog onto the ice so that the pup could get back to shore. After several tries, he did so, and both are living, one would assume, happily ever after, although perhaps nursing some colds. As I watched, I admired him, wondering if I would exhibit the same selflessness, while hoping that I'm never called to. Love dogs, but hate being cold, hate being wet and cold even more. I wondered how selfless I'd be even more when he recounted that when he finally reached the dog bit him. He was trying to save a dog who was trying to attack him as he was being saved. I'll cut the dog some slack, very scared, probably frozen in shock perhaps, but the rescuer deserves even greater admiration for still succeeding in saving that dog's life, even as he tried to not get bitten in the face by a scared dog while submerged in freezing water. There are obstacles to doing good in the world. It isn't always easy. Sometimes it requires discomfort, risk, and resilience, and it helps to have a safety rope to pull you back to shore if things go really wrong. The image of La Loba came to mind, a mythic figure in the Tarahumara indigenous tribe of Mexico. Known as Wolf Woman, she would travel through the desert and find skeletons of mostly wolves, but other animals too. She would lay them on the ground and reassemble them, and then she would start singing. She would sing over the bones until flesh and fur adorned them again, and a heart beat once more, and their breath lifted up into the chill night air, and their feet would move, and the wolf would stand and howl again. She ordered their bones and sung them to life, and they in turn would sing back to her, their breath intermingled as that dog and rescuer's breath must have been on that frozen pond. The man was probably not singing to that dog, though, or if he were, it would be the radio edit of whatever he sung. If it were me, even as I tried to help, there would be some profanity if a dog were trying to bite me in the face while I was helping him. That story of La Loba, who has different names and countless representations in centuries of indigenous folklore, was included in Clarissa Pinkola Estes's popular book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype. Estes is a Jungian psychoanalyst, among many other things, so she's all about archetypes, and the book makes good use of them. Alarmingly, it came out in the 90s, which is alarming because I remember reading it when it came out, and I can't believe that was the 90s. But it was immediately quite popular and remains so to this day. One of the reasons for that is because it uses stories and fairy tales and myths in great measure. They come from various sources to offer wisdom about living a more instinctual and natural life that provides more connection and purpose. They orient one in a larger network of experience where myth and reality kind of overlap, and we find ourselves exploring these same questions, challenges, and contradictions as the ancient ones did. Myths remind us that there is almost nothing that we are facing that has not been faced before, although we have not faced it before. The cycle may be new to us, but it is not new. And as the ancients developed ways to bring life, to sing life, to make breath from dust and bone that would live and howl and love and roam freely, so too must we live that charge, new to us, but not new. The bones of these days that need new life are bones of peace, which seems to be in such short supply, and bones of opportunity, of which so many see so little, or the bones of freedom, which is absent in many lives, or the bones of equality, which seem to, day by day, only get drier and more brittle. Peace, opportunity, freedom, equality, in part or some, and increased by other absent blessings, lie deserted in barren landscapes now as they did then. And while a mythic figure who sings them to life would be lovely, we know that we have only our songs. We have only our voices, hands, hearts, and feet to unite in many songs that bring blessings back to life. We heard this in the community Martin Luther King Jr. interfaith service that Jean mentioned last Monday when the excellent preacher, Reverend Carla Jones Brown of Arch Street Presbyterian Church in Philly, reminded us that truly honoring King is possible only when we enliven the callings that he lived for. Venerating him is pointless if we do not live up to his challenges in our day. Our praise is empty and showy if we aren't working in our own ways for justice, for compassion, and for love to be the guiding moral force in this country. His work is now ours to do, just as ours will be that of those to come. The Talmud in the prophetic Jewish tradition reminds us that we are not required to finish the work, but neither are we permitted to desist from it. We must, in other words, sing to life what we can, even when more songs are needed than we can offer alone. And yet, there are so many songs that are needed. Times can seem so bad, and we can be unsure of where and why to even start singing. In an essay titled, "Do Not Lose Heart, We Were Made for Times Like This," Estes offers advice and perspective, though. She begins by acknowledging that times can seem hopeless, that the new normal of the day can seem awful, and that being dispirited is understandable. And she wrote this in the early 2000s. But she also writes of growing up on this great lake and knowing what a seaworthy vessel looks like, and knowing that there are always plentiful on the lake. Even if we can't see them for the distance, they are there, Each one is ready for the challenges of the sea and the storm. So too are we ready for the challenges of this day, however stormy they may be. For she writes, one of the most important steps you can take to help calm the storm is not to allow yourself to be taken in a flurry of overwrought emotion or despair, thereby accidentally contributing to the swale and the swirl. She's saying, don't add awful to awful. If there's too much salt in a dish, don't add more. Or if everyone's yelling, be calm. If everyone's being hateful, be loving. If everyone is closed-minded, be curious. We can be unusual in how countercultural we can be, especially when the culture is so divisive, so desperate, so winner take all, which in the end means no one wins. Later, echoing the Talmud, she continues writing, ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. We can bless right here and now, she's writing. We are powerful beyond measure in the relationships around us, and we can use that power to create a more loving and just world. And she continues, any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immediately. In this, she reminds us that small things help and help right now. They may not create global or structural change, but they will make someone's life better. To be sure, both are needed. Structural change must happen. Reverend Jones Brown preached that at the MLK service too. But giving small blessings are powerful opportunities that lie before us each and every day. And Estes' faith, built by watching the boats on that great lake, is that many are offering those small blessings. Many are sailing those waters, navigating those storms. Many are singing these new songs. Many are building a better world. Though their stories may not make news, and we may not scroll far enough to see them, those good, solid, strong, and sturdy boats that can withstand storms are out there, just like us, bringing the peace that we can to the world. She writes, it is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding, and continuing. And then she connects this to our souls, writing, the light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, builds signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire. To display the lantern of the soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and show mercy both, are acts of immense bravery and great necessity. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. In this, she's telling us that by creating the good that we can in the lives we can reach, we are helping others do the same thing. And we are building up each other's souls, for our souls are relational. They affect one another. The soul, traditionally thought of more as that sacred ember within that is always directly connected to the source of life, is better imagined as an ember that we tend in one another with our words and deeds. This is a far different construction of the soul than the one that many of us who were raised religiously are familiar with. The soul was stressed then as an individual connection to the divine. One's soul was really one's business along with God. One could teach or preach or instruct one another how to grow their soul, but whether or not that happened was up to the person, and the ramifications were for the individual to enjoy or endure. This construction of the soul, though, one in which the light or shadow that we emit affects the light and shadow that others emit, connects us at that soul level. It makes us soul kin, not just fellow travelers in separate boats in a great lake, although remembering that is important. And perhaps for all of us in some of our relationships, particularly with those for whom we hold a certain harshness or pain, that's as far as the imagery can stretch. We're in different boats on the same lake. May you have smooth sailing. But our actions in the lives of those around us impact everyone. In this, we are not only building ourselves up by bringing light and peace and love to the world, but allowing goodness to build on goodness in others, good deeds to build on good deeds. This is a reminder that both hope and despair are contagious. One's optimism and cynicism can catch like colds, and we wish to only share health. When times seem bad, it is this dual faith that Estes writes of that can help guide us, that others are doing good and that we can too, that we are never alone in either and that we are connected in it all. And this sense that we are strong and sturdy and ready to be beings of love and justice and kindness and freedom in our daily lives in the world. We are always that strong. We always have that choice. We are not to shrink, not to hide, not to sow despair, but to stand with calm mind and loving eyes and offer the clear conviction that love is the gospel of our faith. It is our guide, our North Star, and in its glow we live among neighbor and stranger and even enemy. If we choose it, love will guide us through the bad times, through all times. Only the imperfect love of we imperfect beings, but a love that even expressed in whisper is stronger than a chorus of hatred. Even a whisper of love is, even uttered by lips that have expressed even the greatest of profanities, even that whisper of love is holy, for it blesses and builds and forgives and listens and it saves. Even that whisper of love is stronger than shouts of hatred, for its essence will spread and build more love into more hearts. Love is what will save us. Love is what will save everyone. And it will be the love created by countless small words and deeds, the ones that only you can offer, the ones that add to our collective song and sing dust to life and save everyone, which is what it has to be in our faith. That whatever salvation means, through grace and original goodness, everyone gets it. And what provides it is love. A love that we serve and share in all season, even on stormy seas, even in frozen waters. I was so glad that that story ended with that guy saving that dog in the frozen lake. There was another story, a similar story in the news this week, although the players were a little bit different. This story was about a guy who fell into a frozen lake and was stuck too far out for anyone to reach him. His dog was with him, though, and his dog had not fallen into the water. So the rescuer, who was shouting across the lake to this guy, called the dog to him, tied a rescue disc around the dog's collar, and then the dog ran back out to the guy so that he could untie the disc and hold on to it. The rescuer then pulled the guy to safety with his dog trotting beside him. So much had to go right for that to work out. A lot of goodness, some human, some canine, and indeed some love of stranger for stranger. And to possibly counter the point I just made about love not needing to be perfect, maybe indeed the perfect love of that dog for their person. For some of us, maybe that's the model of love to learn from. However it happens, let us be sturdy and strong and loving and hopeful, and let us give those gifts in great measure, that the storms will cease and the sky will open and a song will be sung that brings from the dust of violence and hatred peace and joy and our shared howls of the joy of existence. May it be so, and amen. At the end of our hour, extinguish our chalice, knowing that its light carries us until we gather again. Go forth grateful for the moments before you, the breath within you, the people among you, and the Spirit guiding you toward lives of love and kindness. And go forth knowing that you are held always and always with everyone else by that great love of no beginning and never ending. Go in peace, and amen.